Well, hello, everyone. This is your girl, Tracie L James, and I'm back. That's right. I am back once again with another amazing woman who is also an entrepreneur. And I'm really excited about the conversation we're going to have today because we're going to be discussing some things that sometimes we don't talk about. All right. Sometimes it's tough to have the conversation, but we're going to have that conversation today. And I have a beautiful, intelligent, talented woman who is an advocate, an author, an educator. I'm telling you, this woman has so many things going on because she has a heart to truly inspire and move people in the right direction. So I can't wait for you to hear from her. I have Miss Tamika Felder, and I am so excited to have her here to share with you today. So Tamika, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Tracie, so much for having me. I thank you for that warm welcome. I feel the love coming through. So thank you so very, very much.
Absolutely, absolutely. It is nothing but love. I love the opportunity to sit down with women who are stepping out and allowing their voices to be heard, even in spaces where they really don't want to hear from us. One of the things that we realize as women, and especially as Black women, is that oftentimes our voices they try to silence us in many ways, and they try to discourage us from sharing our truths. And so thank you for being courageous enough to step out there and share your truth. So everyone, I have a favorite question that I ask everybody I talk to. So Tamika, who are you? And why do you do what you do?
Who is Tamika and why I do what I do? Well, I am a child of God. I am Duty and TJ's baby girl from South Carolina, but I'm also a storyteller. So I've been a storyteller since I was born. I came out of the womb with the gift of the gab, as they told me growing up. But, I've always been a goal chaser. That I was that kid, you've seen the memes that talk too much in school, they turn out to be leaders. The ones, I can pull out my second grade report card and it will show you Tamika was daydreaming in class again. So I've always been a daydreamer, but I want to say the difference with me is I turn those dreams into reality. And even when the dreams don't look like how I wrote them in my diary, I know how to pivot and keep going, even though it doesn't look exactly how I might have dreamed it. So I wear a lot of hats. Professionally, you listed all of them when some of them when you introed me, but at the heart of who I am, I'm someone who knows that every single person out there has a story, right? So becoming a television producer and host, I was able to tell people stories. When I was diagnosed with cervical cancer, I didn't know that my life would change. And even though I'm still telling stories, the difference is I'm telling those who've been impacted by cancer, but I'm still a storyteller. I'm that girl that when I pull up to the stoplight, I might look over and think, who's that in the other car? What's their story? When I see somebody walk by in the crosswalk, what are they walking to? What's their life like? Every single person has a story to tell, no matter how mundane, how boring, how exciting, or otherwise, we all have a story. And I want to learn about these beautiful, wonderful stories that make this world that we all live in.
That is so awesome. And I'm sitting over here applauding because I'm like, yeah, I was the girl. Yeah, that's right. The grade school report card said, Tracie's a great student, but she talks too much.
And look at you now. Look at you now. I will tell you,
too much.
When my mom was alive, one of the things that she said to me, right? It took her, it took my mom a while to get there, but she would get so tickled. She said, I cannot believe you talk for a living. Like, I just cannot believe people pay you to run your mouth. And then she would roll her eyes. But that was her way of saying, okay, so it wasn't ADHD and all this other stuff. You were just being you, know? Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. Sitting here, having this conversation, asking questions of people, I remember, because I went to private school, I went to a private Catholic school, and we had religion class. Okay, so I'm gonna preface this by saying, y'all, I grew up in the Missionary Baptist Church, and I went to a Catholic school. Can you say doctrine does not fit?
Mm-hmm.
There's some things that I like, there's things some different. So because I was so outspoken, I would ask questions in religion class that made the nuns nervous, to the point at which I actually got put out of class one day. I think it was probably 5th grade. And when they told my grandmother what happened, because my mom was at work, my grandmother had, was a teacher. And so they called her, and she was just like, okay, from now on, she gave me a notebook, and she said, every question you have, write it down in the notebook and I'll answer it later. Don't ask the nun. Please don't ask the nun.
That's so funny. I mean, I just had this happen to me 2 days ago. I was dealing with a clinician, and they shared something in a group thread, right, on an email. So it was a few of us on there. And I thought, let me go to Dr. Google and look it up. And I went, and I still didn't understand it. And I thought, this is probably something that's common knowledge and I should know it. But I was like, it's not connecting for me. The dots aren't connecting. And so I said, hey, can you take the time and explain this to me? And it's because I am inquisitive. When I worked in news, I just called it newsy, even though I don't work in news anymore. I still call it newsy, not nosy. But I realized that I like to know how things work. I think it's why I like watching documentaries that really delve deep into stories and the layers of whatever the issue is and what people are going through, or what thing in the world that we should all care about, because you get so much information. But yeah, I would say I'm an inquisitive person, and there's some things I'm like, I don't need to know, but there's some things, I want to know and connect the dots.
Yeah, the things that you're passionate about that really pique your curiosity, you want to know more about. And at that time in my life, I was trying to figure out the whole religion thing, the whole faith thing, the whole God thing. And to me, it just stand to reason, like, why can't you answer the question? And it wasn't until I got older that I really understood the situation. I was questioning her faith. And I didn't see it as that. I was just being inquisitive.
Right.
So at this moment, I'm going to be a little inquisitive with you.
Bring it. I love it.
So with everything that you're doing with your nonprofit and for-profit work, what was that pivotal point that let you know that it was time to let go of anchoring? What was that thing?
I lost my voice, right? And for me, the mouth of the South, not to have a voice, there was something wrong. And so cervical cancer, is a cancer that I talk about all the time. I've gotten people to talk about, but wasn't really wildly talked about when I was diagnosed in 2001 at the age of 25, which led me to losing my fertility. I mean, I didn't even have a broken bone before I had cervical cancer. So I remember praying to God and saying, God, get me through this, and I will be just the best human ever. Not that I wasn't a good human before, but I was like, how did this happen to me? How is this going to change my life? And me being me, I was like, you know what? I'm going to pick up right where cancer started, right? I'm going to go back to that moment. I'm going to pick up, I'm going to grind in my career. I'm going to check off those goals, do the things that I said I would need to do. And I did them, but I didn't have that same vigor, that same zest for it. The stories of politicians and other newsmakers, I didn't really care about. I did it, and did I have fun doing it? Sometimes, but sometimes I didn't care. I was more concerned with why wasn't anyone talking about cervical cancer? I also didn't have the same energy. At 26, I'm now 26, you would think my energy as a young woman would be through the roof. It wasn't, because treatment and surgery just really debilitated my body and my energy. But I also lost a bit of my voice, right? I am a spotlight girl. I'm not even going to try to hide it about it. Like, I can come into a room and not suck the air out of it, but definitely get the spotlight on me, right? Whether I'm trying to or not, people gravitate towards me. I'm a people person. And I want to share that because I want whoever's listening to this to know that it's okay if you've got that big energy, that big personality, and your light shines bright. So when cancer came into my light dimmed a bit. Too much for me. And I recognized it later, but not at the time. You just think you go through this thing and you're going through changes. But I became the cancer girl. And I thought, if I'm not Tamika, the TV host, Tamika, the anchor, then who am I? And I was fighting to hold on to this past life and not letting myself freely go into my future where the light could shine even bigger. Because when I accepted that that was a part of my past, what happened is I catapulted into the future that I had always wanted. And so for me, it was really losing my voice, fighting to hold on to the Tamika of the past. And I had to be open to this new normal, as they call it in the cancer world, in order to kind of grab those things that I had been wanting that I wasn't getting in my career even prior to cancer.
Wow, wow. But you know, one of the things that I've heard numerous times from survivors of any type of cancer, you know, talking with my family members and talking with survivors that I worked with when I was working for the American Cancer Society, that's kind of a common thing, that typically there is this shift that occurs in the heart of who you are that causes you to shift and move in a different direction, and you move in the world differently, even though you were doing some amazing things before this happened. And I love what you were saying about that whole, it was like this struggle. It was, I'm trying to grab for what I was going to before, but then my voice wasn't there. But there was something else. I'm going through the motions. So what did you do to stop going through the motions and really begin to push through and live your life with passion again?
So really, everything that I was about before cancer was going after and living your dreams out loud. But I will tell you, I also got stuck on that hamster wheel of life. So one example was I always wanted to go to Greece. I wanted to, you know, cruise the Mediterranean, you know, travel to Italy, walk down the cobblestone streets, all this other stuff. But there was never enough time, never enough money. After cancer, I was like, life is fleeting. None of us are getting out of here alive. I gotta go to Greece. So I went to Greece, didn't care if I had enough money. I mean, I had enough to get me there, get me back, and have a good time. But, you know, I wasn't like, you know, we all kind of rub together those nickels, no matter what level you're on, you budget for whatever. And I didn't want to wait anymore because even though it may sound cartoonish, you know, like if you Lemony Snicket's, if you wait, you'll be waiting forever. You'll be waiting for the rest of your life. And so for me, cancer was that catalyst that reminded me that everyone is going to die. And I don't mean that in a morbid, depressing way. I mean it as, you know, whether it's cancer or just natural causes or whatever, none of us are escaping here. And I will tell you, when Michael Jackson died, I was like, we really not getting out of here, because Michael Jackson was making sure that we were going to get frozen. He was going to figure it out and we would come back. Michael Jackson died on my birthday. And when he died, I was like, oh.
Baby, I feel you, because I don't know which one impacted me more. I don't know if it was Whitney or if it was Michael. But when they passed, I felt something just, and I was like, wait, this is real. Yeah.
And so,
you know, so to really embrace that fact, yes, we know we are going to die, but to actually just really see it happen to somebody that was like,
yes. And what are we doing with the time that we're here? So prior to cancer, it was always, I want you to know I had a good time while I was here. Now, while I was doing, I want to emphasize, I was doing what I loved and I was doing it well, getting compensated for it well, and I was enjoying it. But I also had, you name horrible bosses, people that were keeping me from the next level. And I remember I had one boss, he was like, well, if you want to make more money, you should be a supervisor. I'm like, I don't want to be a supervisor. I want to be compensated for all these awards that are on this wall that I'm bringing this company, you know, the station and all this other stuff. But for me, what cancer truly was a reminder that, Tamika, you've got to live and you have to take a chance on you and do the things that you want to do. So growing up, I've always been the unconventional one, the one that didn't follow what all the other cousins and the siblings and everyone. So I've always had that part of me. And, you know, my sister, who's 20 some years older than me, she always says, like, you just go for it. You just do it. And I fail a lot. Right? I get the things, but I also get knocked down a lot. But the difference with me is that I always get up, even if my legs feel wobbly, even if I can't stand on them for a long period of time, I always get up and I always go forward. And if you go the wrong way, you can turn around. How many times do we follow GPS and it says, make a U-turn? Make a U-turn. And you like, no, I know the way, I'm gonna keep going. And then you realize maybe they changed the direction of the bridge or the lane or whatever. And dagnabbit, you gotta turn around. And you trust it and you do it. But we don't necessarily trust our gut instincts, right? We think like, that happened to this person, but it'll never happen to us. Or they came from this family and they're set up for this, and so I can't even try it. How many times do you bet on yourself, believe in yourself, and you just go for it? And so what if you failed? Because for me, if I get a moment before I die and I'm able to look back and reflect on my life, I want to reflect and I want to smile like, that was crazy, but at least I tried it. I don't want to reflect on, I wish I would have done this. I wish I would have taken a chance on this. I hate that I care too much what they said. I want to know that while I was here, I had a good time doing the things that I love to do and that brought me joy, which is why people have a bucket list, but really they should have a living life list. What do you want to cross off on your living life list while you're here? And again, these are things that it took cancer. It took another cancer survivor dying to say to me, I don't want a bucket list. I need a living life list. No matter how much time I have left, I want a living life list. So I encourage anybody to make a living life list, whether it's personal, professional, whatever, and start crossing those things off that list, accomplishing those things. And it could be as easy as, I want to cut my hair. I want to wear my hair blue. You want to go surfing at 85? Boo, do you.
Absolutely. I love that. Live life list. Because I think it had to been somewhere between 40 to 45 when my mental shift started to happen. It was after a really tumultuous 30s that I really started to embrace this whole idea of just pursuing and doing me, because I am a recovering people pleaser. So often, you know, a whole portion of my life I spent pursuing other people's view of what Tracie should be and what Tracie should be doing.
But isn't that how we're raised? Isn't that how we're raised?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. It was how I was raised. I was raised that, okay, you need to go get a good education so you can get a job with benefits and then retire. That was what was pushed into me. Get the education, get the education, get the education. And looking back on it, yeah, there's some merit to that, but there should have been some conversation about, well, Tracie, what are you really good at? What are you really passionate about? You know, what is that thing that if you couldn't do it, you know, how would you feel about it? And one of the things that, even though I pursued the job, I drove people crazy because I was changing jobs every 2 to 3 years because it didn't fit right. It didn't feel right. It wasn't the right place.
You were not fulfilled.
No, not at all. And I thought I had this goal to be vice president of an international corporation.
Mm-hmm.
And I found myself as a regional manager, 2 steps, and I do mean 2 steps away from that VP slot,
Mm-hmm.
going, what am I doing? Why am I here? Literally just barely functioning.
Mm-hmm.
I was still performing well at my job, but if I didn't have to leave my house, I was in the middle of my bed. It wasn't until years later when I went to counseling that I found out that sounds like you were functionally depressed.
Yeah.
I'm like, what? But because we don't have those conversations about fulfillment and about joy in life. And now
Exactly.
I'm not making anywhere near what I was making at that time.
But
let me tell me, honey, I feel so good.
Yeah. I mean, I'll tell you this too. So I come from a long line of educators. And prior to that, my grandparents, literally my mother's parents and my father's parents, because my parents had me later on in life, sharecroppers. And so my mother was like, you need to go to college, become a teacher, get married. And I always understood why she wanted me to do that, because it was safe. You know, as a Black woman growing up when she did in the 30s, you know, she was born in the 30s, she literally didn't have many options. And I fought against that so much. My sister became a teacher. I had many cousins that became educators. And I just didn't want to do it. And there's nothing wrong with education. But remember, I'm the girl running my mouth in class. I'm the girl daydreaming in class. That is not for me. And I was like, okay, fine. I'll pick a career that'll just stop her and will make her happy. I'm good at talking. I will argue somebody down. I will become a lawyer.
Oh, I did the exact same thing. When I first, I have a program from high school that says that Tracie plans to attend Howard University and major in business and pre-law.
Yeah.
Because I was wanted to be a corporate attorney. Because again, you talk so much, be a lawyer.
And can I tell you, I would have been so miserable.
Me too.
So miserable. I remember when I first got to my college, they didn't have a mass communications program, and they had an English with a concentration in mass communications. By the time of my sophomore year, they had a full studio mass comm program, all this other stuff. And when I tell you, when those lights turned on, that red tally light from the camera came on, I have never been an A-B student, right? I'm always C, D, maybe some Fs, A, a B here, but more C, D, F. And it doesn't mean that I'm not intelligent, because I think I'm pretty smart and knowledgeable. But what I realized is when I got in those mass comm classes, I did so exceedingly well, because I had found that fit. I had found my purpose, the thing that fulfilled me, the thing that I was good for, what I was made, what I was born to do. And if you don't find it early, that's okay too. Because when I look at who I am now and what I do, there's a domino effect at play, right? So it's all connected, but it's different. You know, I also want to let people know it's okay to switch it up. It's okay to pivot. And it's okay if you find yourself waking up one day and you're like, this is not who I am anymore. This is not what I want anymore. It's okay.
Absolutely. Absolutely. You know, I've worked in so many different industries that I joke that I have sold everything from ladies' shoes to pork sausage, and everything in between. And I wasn't afraid to try new industries, do something different in those different ways. So when I made the decision to leave my job at the Cancer Society and just step out again, it was because I had figured out that this was what was next for me.
Yeah.
There was something else. God was showing me something else. And so in doing that, there was some separation. There were some people who didn't understand and didn't get it.
Yeah.
So, and there were a lot of obstacles that I had to face and deal with. So what was the number one obstacle you had to overcome when you made this pivot?
You said it earlier, not being a people pleaser, because, you know, for certain people, we can please ourselves, but we also want others to be pleased with us. We want them to be happy. We want them to applaud us, give us the praise. But what happens when you are a people pleaser and you're not living in your full intent is that you're being held hostage by others, by their wants, their desires, their views, their standards. And when you're being held hostage, you can't fully bloom into the person that you are because you're so worried about pleasing those other people. So it's really important for us, just anyone in general, to even if you're a people pleaser, to learn how to stand on your own, because one day you'll wake up and your life will be gone and you never did the things that you wanted, right? And so it really is allowing yourself to become untethered from those thoughts and beliefs and not being held hostage by them.
Absolutely. You know, I come to realize that as I became more me, the real me,
yeah,
the reason those people left was that I wasn't the person they knew. That person was gone. Yeah. That person doesn't exist anymore. And so as a result, that whatever that person was, they couldn't have a connection to who I am now because they couldn't understand why I made the change I did.
And for me, it's not even change, it's about evolving. And we should always be in a constant state of evolving, of being the best version of ourselves, right? Mm-hmm. And so what happens is that people want to hold on to what's comfortable for them, what they have expectations for in the relationships they have with you, whether it's professional or business relationships. And they want you to stay in that box that they have you in because it helps them, right? Even if it's not necessarily a bad thing, they want you to stay what I call stuck, right? I had people, whether it was people from my hometown who said, oh, well, you always thought you were going to do this and I remember this, bringing up stuff from the past. And I'm thinking, that has no bearing on this. Or there are people who think, well, don't you have enough? Shouldn't you be happy with what you currently have? And then you think, maybe I should, but I'm always going to want more. But that's because they are not bold and daring enough to go out and get more. And again, that's not necessarily equates to money. To me, I'm talking about joy, fulfillment.
Yeah. I mean, I think for me, when I took my mind off of the title and the money that came with the title, I began to really be able to see what was missing and why I was constantly changing jobs and looking for new opportunities was because I was trying to find that space, right, that sweet spot, you know, and I'm still evolving. I'm still evolving. Even at this point, I will be 50, oh goodness, in just over a week and a half.
Ooh, happy early birthday.
Thank you. And so as a result, you know, I'm really looking at this as like, okay, the last 50 years of my life, I feel good about it. I do. Even the years of people pleasing and every job, every opportunity, everything that I went after, I'm not upset about any of it, you know? But what I do see is how much better I want the next 50 to be.
Yes.
You know, in traveling and, you know, writing books, doing TV, doing radio, doing whatever it is that I want to take the chance at doing. I'm gonna go, at least I'll be able to say, sitting in my chair, talking to my grandchildren and my great-grandchildren, well, baby, let me tell you about how I wrote my first book. Let me tell you, I won't be that thing of, well, you know, I always wanted to write a book, but I never did.
Yes.
Yeah. So I'm with you.
There's a lot of unfulfilled people who are living a life of regret. And I'm going to say it, and it's going to be an ouch moment for somebody watching this. But those people are the same people who are so unhappy that they make other people miserable. And sometimes it's not even on purpose. It's just because they have not really transformed into who and what they are supposed to be. And it's not even about permission. It's that they can't see themselves beyond whatever it is that they're currently sitting in.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Because you have to, in order to achieve the vision, you gotta have a vision for something different, for something new. And I think this is a perfect segue. Tell us about the book you wrote.
Yeah, so I wrote this book, Seriously, What Are You Waiting For? And I will tell you, look, I should have had it out, but let me grab it for you, flash it for you on the screen. Seriously, What Are You Waiting For? And it was a blog post. When I celebrated 13 years being cancer-free, I just, you wake up and you have these things on your mind. And it really was, I had these, what I viewed as 13 common sense rules of how I live my life. And when I tell you that they are very common sense, one is goodbye energy vampires. Like, life is too short to be surrounded by people who suck the life out of you, right? And so when I wrote this blog post, it was on HuffPost, people commented and they said, I'm not a cancer survivor, but I can relate to that. And I got a lot of feedback. So that blog post became this little personal development book. And you can write in it, but it really is stuff that we all know, right? To cherish the people that show up for us. We live a life that sometimes we don't remember just to be kind and gracious. And it doesn't mean that we don't thank people. Like, food is my love language. I love not only to eat food, but I love, outside of COVID, to have dinner parties, celebrate people. But COVID was really a time when I realized you can't connect with people the same way. So send somebody a gift card via a text message. Maybe it's $5, $10 on a Starbucks gift card or Dunkin' Donuts or whatever. But do little love notes, do little things, not only for yourself, but for other people. But also write your living life list, write out your own personal mantra. Like, what is the thing that you say, your mantra? What do you say to yourself when you wake up in the morning? I want you to think about when you wake up in the morning and you start brushing your teeth. Most people pick out every little thing they hate about themselves, like my lips too hairy, or I got too many gray hairs, or this or that. What if you started your moment every single day as you're brushing your teeth and looking in the mirror, saying the things that you love about yourself? I love my lips. There are people who pay good money to have big bottom lips like this, Like, what if you woke up every morning and started your morning in positivity and not negativity? And I'm not talking about journaling and all this other stuff, which I do think is important, but I am talking about the things that are in your mind as you look at yourself. What are the things that you're saying? And so for me, sharing those things really was as much for me as it for anyone who needed it. So, because I'm a sharer, I've always shared. And so I was like, okay, if somebody else can need it, I'll write this, I'll turn it into a book. And the response has been just tremendous. There's been so much love. There's a woman in Australia who told me she read it and she literally went back to school to start her art career. And now she's in art school. There's another woman who told me her friend was going through a divorce. She gave it to her friend. And so I'm thinking, I'm writing it for me from a cancer survivor, like it's never too late to do what you want. People tell me, I'm using it for this, I'm using it for that. So you never know how your gifts are going to bless somebody else. And I don't consider myself a writer. I'm a talker, but I don't consider myself a writer. But I had it on my list to author a book.
Yeah. That's awesome. It's one of those things, like you talked about the time in the mirror. And it's funny you bring that up because I started doing this, and this actually was in the midst of the time I was depressed. Mm-hmm. When I would keep one of my goddaughters, she was maybe 1 year old, maybe 18 months. And so when she would come over and spend the night, when we would get up in the morning while we were brushing our teeth, I'd stand her in the mirror and I'd have her repeat affirmations. I didn't even know they were affirmations at the time. It was just me telling her, say, I am beautiful. I am intelligent. I am capable. I can do all things through Christ. I mean, just literally just having her just talk to herself in the mirror. And it was not anything that I realized just how helpful that was. I mean, her mom, at one point was like, I don't know why you did that. She'd be late for school almost every morning because she ain't had her mirror time. I bought her a portable mirror so she could do it in the car if she didn't have time to do it before she left the house. But that's an important thing, to be able to say those things to yourself. And I'm gonna be honest, you have to be intentional with it, because even though I do mirror time and I do my affirmations in the mornings, there are mornings where I get up and I go in there and the first thing I see is this gray in the front.
Oh, yeah, I did it this morning, but I turn it around quickly.
Yeah, you have to. Otherwise, it drains your energy first thing in the morning. It sets the mood for the day.
Exactly. And do it when you go to bed too. Like, do it when you go to bed too. One of the things that, outside of, just being thankful for waking up. Like, I woke up this morning and I'm so grateful that I got up. And so even just saying that, right? And appreciating that I have breath within me, that I have the opportunity to have a crappy day if I want to, because I'm alive. I woke up.
Yeah. And at one point I was very intentional about doing a gratitude jar, and this literally helped pivot me mentally into that space of gratitude. And it honestly was foundation of my book ultimately, because being excuse proof was all about focusing on the solutions, focusing on the things you can do, what you can control. And so with the gratitude, that's the thing. Hey, this is what I'm glad for. This is what I'm happy for. This is what brings me joy. And I even got to a point where I started being grateful for the things that didn't happen.
Yes, because, I remember before I got cancer, I had this big plan that I was going to move to New York, then move to California, and this was going to happen, and that was going to happen. And I think about all the things that I would have missed if I would have. And it doesn't mean that would have been wrong, but I found a sweet spot here, right? And I haven't given up moving to California. New York, I can't deal with a cold. I literally just told one of my dear friends on Sunday that, because I got back from California, and I said, I have to live in California before I die. I don't care if it's the last year of my life, 6 months or whatever. I have got to be living as a California girl before I leave this earth. I love it just too much. And I can come up with all the excuses that I don't want to go because I'm the one that travels, so people would have to come see me, or just all these excuses. But if that's what I want to do, right? If I want to do that, why should I let it hold me back from something that I have always wanted? Always.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm a Mississippi girl.
Yeah.
Okay. After I got divorced, I left Tennessee, moved back to Mississippi, and I was there for a long time because of family. Most of my family is still there. And so for the longest, that was why I stayed. And so when I made the decision to move to Houston, it was huge, because it was like, I'm leaving that and coming here. But I knew that it was where I needed to be for this next phase of life. And it was tough because I was like, well, some have health issues, so they can't travel and all of this. And I got there and I said, well, you know what, since I'm the one that travels, I'll come see y'all. I'm good.
Exactly.
And I just had to adjust and make that shift. So I'll be looking forward to get notification that you're headed to California. And you just let me know what part of California you're gonna be in. Because I like the Bay Area. I've been up there. I like it. So I would love to visit you there. So
absolutely. And that's it. It's what you just said, shifting your thinking. you do have to shift your thinking in order to make some things work. And it's okay. It's okay to do that.
Absolutely. Well, Tamika, I hate to cut this conversation right here because it's getting really, really good, but we have to kind of wrap it up right now. So if you were to give one piece of advice to a woman that's watching this right now, what would that advice be?
Do it. Do you, boo? Do it. Go after it. Don't hesitate. Do it and fail and do it again and keep going. Just do it.
Love it, love it, love it, love it. So Tamika, let everyone know how they can connect with you.
I'm easy. You can connect with me anywhere. Tamika, F as in Frank, Elder. Tamika Felder, everywhere. Social media, LinkedIn, everywhere under my name, my nonprofit. I'd love for you to give it a follow to CERVIVOR. And on Instagram and Twitter, it's I Am Survivor. And you can also find us on Pinterest. Love it, love it, love it to connect with you. Thank you.
Awesome, awesome, awesome. We'll have all of those linked below this message, below this video for you so that you can connect with Tamika and everything that she is doing, all this amazing positivity that she's putting out into the world. So Tamika, thank you so much for taking the time out of your busy schedule to join me today and for being the amazing storyteller you were created to be. Thank
you so much. It was my pleasure and just happy to be here with you. Please continue to keep doing this.
All right. Thank you so much. So everyone, thank you so much for joining me again, and catch me next time with another amazing woman entrepreneur. So take care and remember, no matter what happens, just do it regardless. Zero excuses allowed. Take care. Love you much.